everybody. It's Michelle LaVore and
Devin LaVore
coming at
you. Some
And-
glorious truth from the heart of God.
Yes.
Boom.
And we'd like to just give a huge welcome to all of you. We're so glad that you're here.
Yes.
And we just appreciate each and every one of you. And we just pray that what we share is just encouraging as the Lord continues to share with us each and every day.
And stretch us to death.
And also a huge thank you to everyone who continues to give and support us. We just so appreciate all of you as well, and just praise
Glory
the
to
Lord.
God.
And if you would like to give it to us, as we are support based, you can. We have a PayPal link below, and you can just click that.
Click it or tick it. Remember that campaign?
Yes.
The click it or tick it.
Probably still.
It probably still is in some states, but anyway.
But so for today, again, the Lord is just continuing to just speak. I really feel like basically since the beginning of this week, which
Rosh
was
Hashanah.
Rosh Hashanah, God has just really been declaring Himself to His people, and it's just been. I just think it's been a really kind of encouraging time. I was just talking with the Lord today, where I was just like, God, like, I just really am actually very excited for what you have to say. Like, at first, and we talked about this in our latest video of just like where you can feel that just stretching, and there's been this tug of war. But today for me, I'm just like, you know what, Lord, I just want to hear everything that you have to say, everything that you're declaring, because it's really just amazing and good things that you are declaring.
It is.
And so once again, the Lord is speaking another time to, which we will get into in just a minute. But I kind of wanted to go, yesterday we mentioned that the Lord was speaking time to receive. And so last night during our God time, we were able to just kind of dig into that more. And it was just really encouraging what the Lord had to share. And so we wanted to share that with you, as well as the next time too that God has just kind of given us. And so
it was really cool how things were orchestrated last night, because it was totally the Lord.
Oh yeah, it was just amazing.
It was totally the Lord.
And so I'll just start off, and then maybe you can just
jump in,
because I
like
need permission,
or encouragement. Like,
make sure
Devin, you need to come out of your box a little.
Whenever
you need to come out of your shell.
Feel led, just jump in, okay? I give you permission.
I will do my best. This is not.
It's not normally
this is not comfortable territory
You're
for
very
me. I'm
quiet
out of my
and
comfort zone here. Sharing. Just, Lord help me.
So yesterday, we got the word time to receive. And it was like, okay, all right, Lord, so what do you mean by like time to receive? What are you talking about? And so last night for God time, I just was, I looked up the word receive in Bible Gateway, and it just, will come up with all the times like the word receive is in there. And I was just kind of scrolling through, just reading through some of these verses, and just like, all right, Lord, is there anything that, to highlight, or, and I got to Matthew 7, verse 8, and it basically says, for everyone who keeps on asking receives. And it was just like, that's it. Like, God is saying, like, it's time to receive, because there's been so many of us that we've just been asking, and there comes a time when you do receive. It's that same idea of like, you might be, of course, when you're pregnant, you do know you're going to have a baby at some point, but you have a due date. And with the Lord, we haven't had like a due date or anything like that. But the whole point is you carry this promise with you, but there comes a time when you hold the promise in your hands. And you've made videos about that many times. And so it was like, oh yeah, so that's what the Lord is speaking. And then also what really stood out to me was Matthew 21, and it's verse 22, and it says, And whatever you ask for in prayer, having faith and really believing, you will receive. And so once again, it's that asking and receiving. It's those two coming together. And then it was really cool because the Lord took me over, highlighted, it's basically the same story in two different books of the Bible. It's in Mark and in Luke. And so in Mark, this is chapter 10, and it's basically verse, I'll actually go 51 and 52. And it says, and Jesus said to him, what do you want me to do for you? And the blind man said to him, Master, let me receive my sight. And Jesus said to him, go your way, your faith has healed you. And at once he received his sight and accompanied Jesus on the road. And then also Luke 18, and this is verse 42 and 43. It's basically the same story, saying, and Jesus said to him, receive your sight, your faith has healed you. And instantly he received his sight and began to follow Jesus, recognizing, praising, and honoring God. And all the people, when they saw it, praised God. And so as we were talking about it, it was just like, oh, like God, he's really talking about like receiving, like it's like receiving the very things that we've been asking for, but also receiving really our sight. You know, we talked about this a while ago, but about just the idea of having the Lord, having the 2020 vision, like to really see him as he is, you know. And even from,
and we were like, is that a prophetic word for 2020?
We're like, I don't know.
People are going to be all over that, you know, in 2020. Yes. I'm like, Lord, is that really what you're saying? And we're just like, whatever. If that's what you're saying, you'll let us know.
But it's like, to be able to receive our sight, to really be able to see the Lord the way that he wants us to see him. And even you know, August 18th, you had the word where it was like prepare to see, you know, to see the promises, to see the fulfillment of God's word in our life.
Glory.
Yeah, to see his glory, to see him for who he really is.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, wow, this is really awesome that, you know, the Lord is just showing us. He's like, this blind man was like, all he wanted was to receive his sight, and that's exactly what he got from the Lord. And then it says, and he accompanied Jesus on the road and just went with him. And for us personally, there's been so many visions that the Lord has given us where he comes and then we just follow him. And it's funny because it's like, well, Lord, we're following you right now.
We're kind of on the road right now.
we're already doing this. But again, there's just this measure of like, all right, the Lord is going to come in a glorious way, and then there's just following him, which reminded me a lot of, you know, the Israelites, where it's like he was with the Israelites in the wilderness, but then he comes in a glorious way by, you know, holding back the waters of the Jordan so they could cross into the promised land. But then he goes before them, and they follow him as he brings them into the land of promise. And so that's just kind of what we were getting with like the receive. But do you want to share? I mean, do you want to share the vision?
I was just waiting for you to know when you wanted me to.
Take it away.
You want me to do it now? Okay. Because well, it was interesting because because yesterday, interestingly enough, what was that? Yesterday we got the time to receive, right?
Yes.
That was the third. And on the second, we got time to travel.
Yes.
That's what it was. It was like time to travel, time to receive. And then last night, you know, Michelle's talking about, or the Lord was telling her about, hey, receive your sight, receive your sight, receive your sight. And then it says this guy accompanied him on the road. I was like, wow, so we receive our sight and we accompany you on the road. That sounds like a travel. You know, receive it. It's like all of these time twos are what's going to be happening. They're all going to kind of meld together, I think. And so I was that's Michelle's notes right there. See them? And I was looking at all those. I was like, oh wow, that looks really good. Receive. But I was like, we should look those up. we should look those up. Maybe we'll do that for God time, or maybe we'll do that tomorrow or something. I don't know. And then she ended up doing it. But during that time, I was looking at this, and I was just praying to the Lord. I was like, Lord, my heart was just like, it was like pulsating for the Lord. And I'm like, Lord, just speak to us, share with us. Like I asked you last night to help us. You helped us. I need help right now again. I don't care if I have to ask you for help 77 times 7 times a day, but I'm going to ask you that many times. This is one of those moments. Come on, Lord. And then the Lord showed me this vision of this person, and I guess it was me, but it could represent a lot of different people. But I was going on this journey with the Lord. And you ever watch those movies, particularly like those old 80s movies, where you watch a certain part of the movie and they get to this point of the movie where it's all just montage of things happening, and it's set to some sort of, corny 80s music or something. It was kind of like that, just without the corny 80s music. The cornies. Anyway, the corny 80s music. But and then this person was going through everything, and they were going through every kind of emotion, and they were like, yeah, woohoo! It reminded me of Tangled. Remember Rapunzel? It's like, best day ever. And then this is terrible.
Yeah.
And so I just remember this one particular scene where the person they were laying on this moss-covered rock, and they were just like this, and they were crying. This rock was huge. It was like the size of a bed turned up. It was huge. And they were just so grieved, and then they got over their grief, and they kept going. And the Lord had their hand the whole time, and He was leading them through this crazy long journey. But the thing of it is, during this whole journey, the person was actually blind. They couldn't see. So they couldn't see the moss-covered rock. They can only feel it. They couldn't see this thick jungle that they were in, because when that was the scene. It was like this big, huge rock, but it was in the midst of this jungle, which can be a wilderness, But the promise was, follow me, and I will take you to see. I will give you your sight if you follow me. So that's the promise, is to be able to have the sight. And so the whole time throughout this journey, this person is like, this vision was like very quick. You see it, but then explaining it takes several minutes. That's the slowness of the third dimension, isn't it? Anyway. But, so this person is just going along with the Lord, and of course, you can just see there's so much journey going on here. That's why it was kind of in a montage kind of fashion. And they're just constantly waiting. Is this the moment? Oh, we stopped. Oh, I sense the water flowing, and that's just. Oh, this is really cool. We're not going. Oh, he's getting ready to touch my eyes again. I'm getting ready to see. I'm getting ready to be see. Oh yes, awesome. And then, all right, come on, let's go. What? I thought you were gonna do the thing. Where I get to see. It's like, no, not yet. Come on, let's keep going. And then here comes all the ups and downs of the emotion and everything. And then the person finally gets to this place where they're at the mouth of a cave. It's like this cave in a mountain, this cave opening in the side of a mountain. And by that time, they're just they're tired, they're upset, but they love the Lord too much to be mad at the Lord, but they're still feeling what they're feeling, and they're just done. There's this part of them that's just like, I'm done. I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what done means, but I'm just done. And it's like, but they're obviously not done following the Lord.
Yeah.
So even in the vision, they don't even know what it means to be done. They just know they're done. And then, so remember, they're blind. And then so the Lord comes up behind them, puts them at this mouth of the cave. It's a big opening. And then he comes up behind him and does this. And then, so the person in the vision is like, what are you doing? I'm blind. Why are you blindfolding me? You know what I mean? It's like, hello, I'm blind. You can't. You can't. That's just where their heart was at. It's like, why are you covering up my eyes? Like, I am literally blind. You don't have to blindfold me, you know? And then as they're going through that, rah, 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 you know, the Lord removes his hands and they can see. And in the midst of them being able to see, they're still complaining about the Lord blindfolding them. Just in that split little second. You know, it's just like, why are you blindfolding me? I don't need you to... What? It was just like, all of a sudden they realized they could see. But their ability to see and finally have their sight was overshadowed by what they were seeing. You know, they were looking out on this huge, vast valley of paradise of just like, wow. I mean, they were blown away. They had nothing to say. And then the vision ended. And I felt like the Lord was like saying, that's you guys.
Yeah.
That represents everything you guys have gone through, and all those stop and start moments where you kept thinking that it was going to happen and it didn't happen, and you felt like I was silent, I wasn't saying anything, and then I just grabbed your hand and then we kept on going. And you know, sometimes you were like, yes, we believe in God and we're going to give him the highest praise, to, oh, I can't take it anymore. You know what I mean? Just all of those things. But it's like, God's like, I'm the one who grabbed you and I kept you going, and now you're here. Yeah. You know, you're here at this place, and it's like, and then my eye covers. You know, my hands are covering you. My eye covers. my hand is covering you, and you're going, what are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. I almost feel like that's this week. This week's been kind of like, what are you doing? I don't understand. Why are you always giving, what are we, time to this, time to that, time to this, time to that. Okay, what are you doing? You know?
It's like, what are we supposed to do with that?
Like, I am so done. You know what I mean? Why are we stretching? I feel like we're going backwards. What's going on? Why? I'm just, you know, and you're just speaking out of your hurt and your woundedness, but all the while God's doing something super amazing. Yeah. So I was getting that during worship, and then like a lot of times when worship time ends, it's like, hey, does anyone have anything to share? And I remember, I was like, oh yeah, I did. I know I got something. It was really awesome, but for the life of me, I couldn't bring it up. And it was almost like the Lord was like going, no, not right now. Just wait. Not right now. And then the funny thing is, Michelle then says, oh, here I have these scriptures already pulled up. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And then she reads all of these scriptures that she just read, and then I was blown away, because it was all about the ones in Matthew, or it was about receiving what you ask, but then these two of the same story, God speaking double, God's confirming, saying, I want you to receive your sight. I want you to be able to see. I told you to prepare to see. Now I'm telling you it's time to see. Because that's what we're going into. We're going into a time to see. We're going into a time where it's the cool 14 parts of Ecclesiastes. So, time to be born, time to heal, time to, you know, it's like all of those things are what God's speaking and declaring and saying, this is what's going on right now. This is what I'm speaking over your life right now. And it was just really cool, because that whole vision that I had, I'm crying out to the Lord to speak to me. It was about him leading me to a place where he could heal me of my blindness, and I could see everything that he's been doing. Because even on this journey, I feel like we've been going on this journey blind. We really have. We have no idea where we're going and why we're going this way, that way. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just going to say that. It really has been. Where's that scripture? The Lord will lead the blind in a way they know not.
That's Isaiah 42:16. That's exactly the scripture I actually got when we were doing this, or when I was getting this vision, you know.
All right, so little guy kind of woke up, so hopefully he'll do good for the rest of the video.
It was like kind of like a startle or something, you know.
But what I was thinking of is Isaiah 42 and it's verse 16, and it says, and I will bring the blind by a way they know not. I have led them in paths that they have not known. I will make darkness into light before them, and make uneven places into a plain. These things I have determined to do for them, and I will not leave them forsaken.
Yeah.
And so
That was the scripture I was thinking of too.
Yeah.
Although when they were going through that journey, it was not an even plane. They were climbing up rocks and going over. That was like, wow, they're going on this crazy journey with the Lord,
Yeah.
but they didn't get hurt.
Mm-mm.
They weren't sick.
Yeah.
They didn't get scraped and cut, bit by snakes or anything like that. They were just
Yeah.
following the Lord, and they were fine.
Mm-hmm.
This person in this vision.
Yeah. And so it was really awesome last night. I mean, we just felt like, wow, like, God, you are so amazing, because of just like that confirmation of just like, yes, that's what I'm speaking, is that you will receive your sight. You will receive the promises that you've been asking for. And so then this morning.
Well, hold on.
Oh.
Because it speaks to the whole being put in the cleft of the
Oh,
rock.
yes.
It's like Moses is like, Lord, I beseech thee, show me your glory. I want to see you, like really see you. Not just hear your voice speaking to me. I really want to see your face. A lot of times that's how I am. I'm very visual. Like I want to see the person. You know, people who give to us on a regular basis, I really there's a part of me that just I really want to see what they look like. So I can just attach, you know, I don't know, you know what I'm saying?
With the name.
Yeah, and it's just like it's like it fills the gap. It's like, yay, you know? And so it's like that's what we've been doing, and God's like, that's what I'm doing with you guys. I'm putting you in the cleft of the rock now. You know, ever since like September or something like that, right?
Since September.
And then when he removes his hand, Moses sees the glory. So it's like when God removes his hand from this person in the vision, they can see what God's been doing. You can see this is what you've been leading me to. You can see why you couldn't tell us everything, because it would have hindered the pace of the journey. And it's just like, just trust me and we'll get here, then you will see and you will have no more questions. You know?
Yeah, and it's like, I think that's just is part of it. The Lord's been taking us on a journey where he has been leading the blind, in the sense because he wants to have his people really trust him and really just follow him. And it's like, all right, I know it's kind of that faithful with the little and I can give you much. It's almost like, well, I know that you've been faithful to follow me in the darkness, how much more in the light. And you know, just that he wants people who are gonna just continue to follow him no matter what. And so last night was just really encouraging and
Super
really awesome.
Yeah.
And then, do you want to go ahead and talk about this morning's time too?
Yeah, sure. You want me to start off with my story?
Yes.
Well, I woke up and, you know, par for the course these last several days, I'm just sitting in this here chair and I'm just like, okay, Lord, so here I am, you know, groggy, but here I am. What's on your heart today, you know? And I'll be totally honest with you again. I was like, oh man, or am I going to get another time to? I really don't want another time to. But me not wanting it is trumped by my real desire to just hear from the Lord whatever he wants. But, you know, you got to be honest with the Lord, even with the things that you think he doesn't want to hear. Because the truth of the matter is, he knows all of it's there anyway.
Yeah.
God knows stuff about you that's in you that's not so great, that he hasn't even talked about and you haven't even discovered yet. But he knows it's there. You know what I mean? And it's like, and when that comes, it's like, faithful with the little, I'll give you much. So it's like, how are you handling these little issues that I'm bringing up in your heart? Well, this is, oh wow, you're handling it with some reverent fear of the Lord and some humility. I mean, that's exactly how you're going to handle every other issue that comes along. You know, or you have the potential for that. You're showing a track record of that. You know, I mean, yes, sometimes people can have their David and Bathsheba experiences, but it's like you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater. God still said that David was a man after his own heart after that. So it's like he's not identified by his Bathsheba mistake. Can't talk today. But this morning, you know, long story short, Now I'm telling you what, I've been getting challenged all week, but this morning was the most challenging ever because I got another time to, and I was like, and when I got the time to, this was my reaction. No. And that is not the Lord. And because of the Lord, it's like he came to me and he was like, he clasped his hands together and he's like, time to drive. And I'm just like, no, that's not the Lord. I was like, Lord, I need you to speak to me. And it was just like, this is me speaking to you. And it was like, oh, wow, time to drive? What do you mean? And then the Lord gave me this vision about him handing me these keys to this really, really expensive supercar. And he was like, here you go. And it's like, you receive it, right? Yeah, but you're not driving it. Why aren't you going to go drive it? It's like, no, you don't want me to have that. Nope, sorry. Thanks for the keys. I'll set that right over here. Now, what are you saying? You know what I mean? It's like, he's like, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You got to take the things that I'm saying and you've got to open it up. You can receive a gift and go, oh, thank you, and then go set it on the shelf. You've got to open it up. You've got to really embrace it. You've got to really take it. You've got to really get into it. You got to drive that thing. You know, I'm giving you something. You got to take it and drive it. And but then the Lord kind of chimed in. He's like, but I am talking about actual driving too, right? Because it kind of goes along with that travel thing, I believe. And I'm just like, wow. And so, I mean, it was tough for me this morning. It really was. Not in like an attitude kind of way, like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just difficult to receive. It was difficult to believe. There you go. That's what made it tough, because I was like, it's time to drive.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, praise the Lord. I have you, Lord. It's just, I have your peace. But I also praise you that I have Michelle, because I'm sure telling her about this, because I'm just so shaky. Yeah. My legs, I'm walking on wobbly legs here. I can walk, but they're wobbly. My faith is really wobbly here. And so I went and I shared it with Michelle. And I was like, I feel like the Lord's saying it's time to drive. Please tell me I'm crazy. Please tell me I'm wrong or something, because this is just not right.
Yeah.
It's time to drive. What does that mean? What does that even mean? But
yeah, and actually when Devin was sharing it, I was just like, oh yeah, that's really awesome. Because
typical opposite.
Always opposite, right?
It's like, oh, that's awesome. That is so the Lord. What?
I can't tell you how many times that's happened where Devin's like, I don't know if this is the Lord, and he'll start sharing, and I'm like, that is so the Lord. And then it's the opposite.
I'll have a dream.
Yeah.
I'm like, I had this really weird dream.
I don't think it's the Lord.
It's definitely not the Lord, but this was what happened in that dream. What?
How could you not know that was the Lord? I mean, it's so clear.
I was like, it was? Oh, I guess the way you put it. Well, yeah, I guess that was the Lord. Sorry.
But then there's been other times where I'm it's like the opposite boat where it's like I don't know. It's like, this is the Lord.
Are you serious? That is so the Lord. It's so funny.
But I was immediately thinking about how God was saying like to drive, time to drive. I feel like there's a few different applications, but it's just like
a rainbow of applications.
Yeah, and kind of like what Devin was talking about, it's like you can receive something from the Lord, but then it's like the actual doing that also needs to happen. So I was reminded this afternoon of just someone that we know that was given a word a couple of years ago now, where the Lord was inviting them to start painting. And it was a word that they received, but then they just kind of sat on it for a while, and then he was finally like, so are you going to do something? And they did. They started painting, and it's just an amazing story what God has done in their life since then. And I just kind of feel like that's part of it. Like part of this season, this time that we're going into, God's like, I'm going to be giving words for you to receive, but then there is also that you actually have to drive. It's like you can receive keys to a car, but unless you actually drive it, what does it matter if you got keys to a car? It's just sitting there in the driveway, And the Lord's
And this car
like,
was expensive. Like,
but it just represents, I think, gifts from the Lord.
oh yeah.
But it's like you can receive them, but as he's giving his gifts, he also wants you to use them, to drive, to go after the things that he is placing before you. And I just believe the Lord is going to start placing things before us where we can actually go into those things. And it's opposite of really where we've been, because for so long we've been receiving words from the Lord, but it's been, okay, take this word and just hold fast to it.
Right.
And wait. Hold fast and wait. And God's like, no, now I'm going to be giving you words, but there is a doing that's going to be coming with it. And just very similar, I was also thinking about with the drive is that what the Lord spoke to the Israelites. He said he would drive out the inhabitants of the land so that they could go and possess the things to take hold of the promised land. In Joshua 3, verse 10, it says, Joshua said, hereby you shall know that the living God is among you, and that he will surely drive out from before you the Canaanite, Hittites, Hivites,
all the ites,
lots of ites. and he uses that word drive. I'm going to drive them out. And then of course that was part of what they did when they crossed over the Jordan. They were led by the Spirit of God, but they were driving out and taking possession of their land of promise.
So it's like our last video. We talked about time to cross over and see the goodness of God, and then after that, you do some driving.
And I just thought it was, I was reading in Exodus too about how the Lord's like, hey, I'm going to go before you and drive them out, but he's going to do it a little bit by little bit. And it's really for the purpose to, it's the wisdom of the Lord to say, all right, I'm going to expand you little by little, and you're going to keep growing, and you're going to keep, it's like a child. They just continue to just keep growing up and growing up and growing up, and every year there's a greater increase. Yeah, and so it was just kind of, we were just looking at that word, and I just feel like, wow, God, you're doing a lot. It is the time to drive. It's a time for the Lord to use his people to drive out really just like the wickedness and the evil, and to get to receive the land that is his, and for him. And it's just, and the key to that though is continuing to listen and obey the Lord, because as you read through the book of Joshua, it's like many times, there's quite a few times where the Israelites, they went against what the Lord had spoken, and there were consequences for that, where it will say, it's like, and they did not drive out, and it has some of these ites that they didn't drive out, and there was a consequence for that, and so it's like the Lord though, he's going to be, he wants to give us the fullness. He wants us to receive the 100-fold of everything that he has for us. And I think overall...
Can I give another example real quick? Or it's like a lot of times in the Old Testament, you will see that it will say, and they defeated this person, and they defeated this, and they brought restoration to Israel, and the Lord was glorified. But the high places in Dan and Beersheba were still up. It was like they did not take down those. And it's like, why? That's a pattern, you see. And it's like, why does God mention that? And it's like, he's mentioning it to show, like, their obedience wasn't complete.
Yeah.
It wasn't full. It wasn't like, it was like, because a lot of those places where the high places were up were really far. They were actually really far. I was like, I don't think we need to go all that way just to tear down that idol. It's like, yes, you do. Because it's like a little leaven will leaven the whole lump. And it's like, God's like ready to just, in our own hearts even, push out everything.
Yep.
That's why we keep getting these 444s, and then stuff starts popping up, and Dr. Pimple Popper squeezing stuff, and it's just like, oh my gosh, attitudes, issues, and stuff like that are coming up. And God's like, well, this isn't comfortable. I know it isn't, But do you want it to stay there? No. Okay. Well, you can live like no one else, so later on you can live like no one else. You know? It's like it's better to just get it out and get it out in the open and get it gone and to drive it out. Like all of it. Mm-hmm. Don't leave up anything in your heart that's going to be a place that says this is how God is, and this twisted weird view of who God is.
That's really good. What's the scripture that says morning by morning like I drive out?
Oh man, I don't know.
I don't know.
That's in the Psalms where David was like, every morning I wake up and I drive out. Oh my gosh, I did that on one of my first videos. Like seriously, I think that's like on one of my first 5 videos I used that scripture. A long time ago.
But yeah, just that I really like that because
and that was when he was in the promise and he was the king.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was like, every morning I'm going out and I'm looking. Is there any wickedness in my land? I'm gonna kick his butt.
I'm gonna root it out.
I'm gonna pull it out.
Because I was just thinking about weeding
in the garden,
like the Lord and how He has been doing a thorough work. He has shown us what it means to do a thorough work because He is then going to equip us to do a thorough work in the land that He's given each and every one of us. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's like you must do all of it. You have to go after every aspect of it that I'm sending you to do because you don't want those high places because they it's that leaven that's going to ruin the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And you know, or like the foxes, it's like you can't leave them in the vineyard.
Good example.
So it's like, you know, how it's like God's been giving us just a beautiful, perfect example of Himself and how He's just like, I'm showing you the depths to which I will go to create your hearts to be pure before me and just like the depths that I go to drive out things,
the very center of the earth.
But it's like you also have to have that same
tenacity.
Yeah. To go forth
passion.
when you go into the land, and they didn't have that always in you know, when the Israelites went into the promised land. They really did get to like these points where it was just kind of like
they're too comfortable.
They got comfortable and they're just like.
And that has nothing to do with prosperity or money. Mm-mm. It has nothing to do. I know tons of people who have no money and they're just comfortable. And it's like, what? You know, and then you have lots of people that have lots of money and they're comfortable. You know, you have some people who have lots of money and they're still driven to be very excellent at what they do. And there's other people who have no money and they're driven to just try to get that success. It has to do with the heart, mm-hmm. not your exterior, you know, stuff. So it's like, I remember when Rick Joyner in the Final Quest, can I share this? In the Final Quest, remember, he went to the Overcomer section, mm-hmm. and he said, I was shocked because there were some people there that were really wealthy. I knew them. How are they here? And it has nothing to do with whether you have money or don't have money.
Well, or even actually, there was the homeless man that was there.
Oh,
too.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, how
You're
did
there?
he get here?
You're in the Overcomer section? Listen, this is the VIP section of heaven.
Yeah,
how are you here?
Well, and because for him it was like, well, what did he do for the kingdom? Like, how did he get here? And the way that the Lord sees things is so vastly different than the way that we see things.
Really is.
And so that's why we need to see Him for who He really is, and he must open our blind eyes to really capture His heart and how He moves and how He goes about doing things. And it was just I really loved this, even today's word of just like, it's time to drive. And you know, it's time to drive in the sense of taking possession of the things that the Lord gives us, because that's really, you know, if you receive a car, well, you got to take possession of it, to really call it your own. You drive it, you use it, you know. It doesn't matter what it is that you receive. If the Lord is saying, hey, I want to give you a gift of being able to play instruments, well, you got to start playing instruments in order to get the fullness of what the Lord has for you.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to give you this you know, whatever it is, you have to step into that and go after it. And I feel like it's just, I think the biggest thing is just that it's like we really have been in a time of waiting. And the Lord is now, I really feel he's like, it's shifting into a time of going and moving and doing that. And of course it's all led by the Spirit.
Right.
And you don't want to just start doing things just, all right, just to be doing.
It's like, all right, I got the ball. Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's go.
it's
Come
like,
on.
whoa.
Wait. You're running the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, because even the Israelites, in order to take possession of the land that the Lord gave them, they had to seek God, you know, and it was really Joshua who was then leading them. He was like, all right, Lord, what's the strategy for this city? You know, and of course the first city, Jericho, we know that strategy where they marched around and they shouted at the, you know, seventh day, and God took those walls down. But then for other cities, the Lord was like, all right, you're going to fight in this battle, or you're going to do this. This is the strategy for how you take possession of the land. And so it was like the Lord was like, I'm going before you. And it's like that's the same with our lives. God is going to go before us. But I think he also wants us to know that there is a going. There's a movement that is happening. And
there's
not
an on the road.
Yeah, it's
there's
not
traveling.
It's not a stationary thing anymore where we're just receiving words and waiting.
Right, because that's what they were doing in the wilderness. In the wilderness, they were just waiting. But also, with all of these like time twos that God is doing, I feel like the Lord is like, I like see this person in the temple of the Lord, and this person like during this whole Rosh Hashanah, was it like the days of all? These first 10 days or something. But I just felt like I see this like guy coming out of the temple of the Lord, and he's got this scroll, and he unravels the scroll and says, "It is time to receive." And he closes it and goes back into that. It's almost like that's what the Lord is declaring from the temple. He's saying like, it's time to be elevated. It's time to see. It's time to receive. And then this morning, it is time to drive. You know, and it's like, oh, okay, great. What does that mean? And so now we know what that means.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I just think it's kind of, I don't know, it's just when you were saying that, I'm like, I was thinking about just like Jubilee, and how Jubilee in and of itself was just a declaration of like, you know, this is the time really for freedom, for things to be, you know, reversed as far as like if you, you know, you receive land back, or you, just like there was a freeing thing that was going on with Jubilee, and just like it's like God really is just declaring things right now. He is shouting from heaven and saying like, this is what's coming. And because it's not just like a one-time thing. I think he's like, this is a season of time.
This is what's going to characterize the next era.
Yeah.
That I've been talking to you guys about for the last couple years.
Yeah.
Like, this is what's going to happen.
Of just like, there is just this movement towards where there is going to be, you know, just all of those things that he's declared. And I think like even for us right now, it's just like we're just seeing a small sliver of what the Lord is even speaking about, because it, you know, especially with like time to travel, like I think that there is going to be just like the Lord is going to be moving people. It's not necessarily like moving in the sense of like you have to be moving to a new place, but that could be part of it. But just even like the movement of the Lord, like having, you know, just, I don't know, just there's that idea of like a movement and bringing forth his word to places, and he is going to be sending people, and there can be even just like, you know, God might be having people where they do have a home, but then they're traveling to places, you know, and coming back home and things like that. And so I'm just like, I really am very excited for, you know, the Lord to unfold everything that he has been speaking, all of the time twos and
which you can't put a time frame on.
No. And
even though it's like time to, yay. Well, hold on.
But I just
there's more declarations coming.
It's like the Lord is just like this is these are all like the ingredients of this era. This is everything. It's going to be flavored with all of these things that I'm speaking.
Yeah.
And what it's going to create is just this beautiful, body of believers that he is going to have, that is just going to bring I'm just getting a picture of like this giant loaf of bread, and it's just like hot out of the oven, and it just like it's sweet smelling to the Lord. And it really, this loaf of bread, I think it just represents all the body of Christ and what he's doing. And it's like all of these time twos are the ingredients in that loaf of bread, and it's just going to bring this like sweet fragrance to the Lord. And it's just like, that's what he's really doing right now. And so I'm just really excited to just
super exciting.
continue to hear what the Lord is declaring. And I don't know how long he's going to do this. Part of me feels like he's definitely probably going to do it until, like the first 10 days of awe, possibly. But that's a time frame. We're not going to go there. So. But I am just, it's just like, all right, Lord, we're just going to wake up, and it's like, what are you speaking? What are you saying?
Well, we're just going to walk with you. That's what we're going to do.
And just
before, now, after.
Yeah, and it's like
matter.
To believe and receive everything that he has for us.
Yeah.
And say yes to it. Say yes
even
to
if
it in our hearts.
stretches you to the point of snapping.
Yeah. Because really why is it so stretching? I think it's stretching because it's like, I know for us personally, in our history, especially in 2017, there was a time when we received a lot of time to words. And it was just like, we really didn't understand everything that the Lord was saying. And I think there was just a lot of disappointment with that, with like certain expectations with those words. And so it's like, here the Lord is just filling us up this whole week, and so it can bring out just like, oh man, Lord, we were really hurt like in this area, but he can bring healing when he brings out the hurt. And so it's like, all right, Lord, will you have healing for the hearts as well, in this, because it's a time to heal.
Yeah, it's a time to cross over from the wilderness into because there's nothing to drive when you're in the wilderness. There's no driving anything. Well, you can drive some sand from one area to another. I mean,
it's just
there's really nothing.
Yeah.
So there's a miraculous event that occurs that takes you from the place you're in to the place he wants you to be, so that he gets the glory for both sides.
Yes.
And so.
So I think that's all that we have for you guys today.
Enough.
I think so. And so we just pray that you guys are blessed, and
it's a time to be blessed.
It is.
And it's a time for us to go eat, because I'm hungry.
Me too, actually.
It's time to say goodbye.
So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.